First contact in the void. The stars stretched endlessly across the viewport of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder, pinpricks of light against the vast darkness of space. Captain Elena Reyes stood motionless, her gaze fixed on the holographic map hovering before her. The familiar blue glow illuminated her weathered face as she studied the edge where charted space abruptly ended, revealing nothing but emptiness beyond. "We're approaching the boundary, Captain," Lieutenant Zane Chen reported from the navigation console. His voice was steady, but Elena detected the subtle undercurrent of excitement. "Sensors are already showing irregularities." Elena nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the map. This mission represented humanity's boldest venture yet, to cross the threshold that had baffled explorers for generations. The region ahead was known simply as the Void, a massive area of space where navigation systems failed, probes disappeared, and signals were swallowed whole. "All systems nominal?" she asked. "Yes, Captain. Though the quantum stabilizers are showing minor fluctuations, nothing outside acceptable parameters." The Pathfinder had been specially designed for this mission. Reinforced hull plating, experimental navigation systems that could function independently of traditional star mapping, and a crew selected for their unorthodox problem-solving abilities. 50 of Earth's finest, venturing where others had turned back. "Bring us to threshold velocity, Lieutenant. Let's not rush into the unknown." Elena's voice was calm, masking the tension that had built in her chest over the 6-month journey from Earth. As the ship's engines hummed with reduced power, Science Officer Aisha Okafor approached, her tablet displaying rapidly changing data. "Captain, the energy readings from the Void are unlike anything in our databases. It's as if space itself has different properties there." Elena studied the readings. The theoretical physicists back on Earth had predicted this, but seeing the actual numbers was still unsettling. "Keep monitoring. I want to know the moment anything changes." The bridge fell silent as the Pathfinder glided toward the invisible boundary. No dramatic line marked where known space ended and the Void began, but every crew member felt the significance of this moment. Humanity had spread across their solar system and ventured to nearby stars. But this was different. This was true exploration. "Boundary crossing in 30 seconds, Zane announced. Elena straightened her uniform jacket. "All departments, status report." One by one, the department heads checked in. Engineering, ready. Medical, ready. Security, ready. Sciences, ready. Communications, ready. 10 seconds. Elena took a deep breath. "Proceed." The Pathfinder crossed into the Void without fanfare. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. Then, the holographic map flickered. The stable connections between charted stars wavered, distorted, and suddenly disappeared entirely. The map showed only the Pathfinder, floating in an empty digital sea. "Navigation systems compromised," Zane reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "Switching to local positioning network." Elena had expected this. The Pathfinder's local positioning system didn't rely on external navigation beacons or star positions. Instead, it created its own frame of reference, a technological bubble around the ship. "Deploy sensor buoys," Elena ordered. "Let's start building our own map." The ship shuddered slightly as the first wave of sensor buoys launched, spreading outward in a precisely calculated pattern. These sophisticated devices would create a network, allowing the Pathfinder to navigate safely within the Void. Buoys deployed, and "Captain, something's wrong." Zane's voice tightened. "The buoys are transmitting, but their positions aren't stabilizing. It's as if space itself is shifting." Elena moved to his station, studying the readouts. The buoys' positions were indeed fluctuating, making it impossible to establish a reliable navigation grid. This was beyond what their simulations had predicted. "Aisha, analysis." The science officer looked up from her station, her expression troubled. "The physical constants we rely on. They seem to be variable here. Not dramatically, but enough to affect our systems." Before Elena could respond, A low hum filled the bridge. It wasn't coming from any of the ship's systems. It seemed to emanate from the space around them. The sound grew louder, vibrating through the deck plates beneath their feet. "Source?" Elena demanded. "Unknown," Aisha replied, her voice rising slightly. "But there's an energy pattern forming approximately 5,000 kilometers off our port bow." The main view screen shifted focus. Where empty space had been moments before, a distortion now appeared, a ripple in the fabric of reality itself. The ripple expanded, twisted, and suddenly tore open. The tear revealed something that human eyes had never witnessed before, a vessel of impossible proportions and geometry. It seemed to bend around itself, sections disappearing and reappearing, as if parts existed in different dimensions. Its surface wasn't metal or any recognizable material. It appeared almost organic, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "Red alert," Elena ordered, her voice calm despite her racing heart. "All hands to stations." The alien vessel made no aggressive moves, but its mere presence sent waves of energy cascading across the Pathfinder sensors. The ship's computers struggled to interpret the readings, flashing warning after warning on the tactical display. "We're being scanned," Security Chief Andrei Volkov reported, his Russian accent thickening with tension. "Unlike any scanning technology we've encountered." Elena stood firm. "Open all standard greeting channels. Let them know we come in peace." Communications Officer Maya Torres worked her console. "Broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain." No response yet. Minutes passed in tense silence. The alien vessel remained motionless, its strange geometry continuing to defy human perception. Elena was about to order a different approach when the bridge speakers crackled with a sound that made everyone flinch, a high-pitched, modulating tone that seemed to pierce directly into their minds. Elena gripped the edge of a console as pain lanced through her skull. Around her, crew members grimaced, some pressing their hands against their ears though the sound wasn't physical. And then, abruptly, it stopped. In its place came words, not spoken aloud, but forming directly in their thoughts. "You should not be here. This place is forbidden." Elena straightened, focusing her thoughts. "We are explorers from Earth. We mean no harm. Your kind has never crossed the boundary before. Your presence is unexpected." The mental voice carried emotions beneath the words: surprise, curiosity, and something else. Fear. "We seek only knowledge and peaceful contact." Elena projected her thoughts clearly. A pause, heavy with unspoken tension. Then, "Your vessel's energy signature is unfamiliar. You are not like the others who have tried to enter our domain." Elena exchanged glances with Aisha. Others. There were no records of previous expeditions successfully entering the void. "We are humans," Elena replied. "This is our first venture into this region." Another pause, longer this time. The alien vessel pulsed with rapidly changing patterns of light. "You speak truth. You are not of the collective. You are individual minds." The alien presence in their thoughts seemed to shift, probing deeper. Elena felt as if invisible fingers were sifting through her memories, examining them like specimens. Around her, crew members shifted uncomfortably, experiencing the same invasion. Andrei's hand moved toward his weapon, but Elena signaled him to stand down. This was first contact. They needed to proceed with caution. "You are dangerous," the voice suddenly declared, withdrawing from their minds with jarring abruptness. "Your thoughts move in patterns we have not encountered. You resist natural assimilation." The alien vessel's lights pulsed more rapidly, shifting to deep crimson hues. Warning signs flashed across the Pathfinder's tactical display. "They're charging weapons," Andrei announced. "Unknown type, but the energy buildup is massive." Elena stepped forward. "We have no hostile intentions. We came seeking understanding, not conflict." "Understanding is irrelevant. Your existence threatens the harmony. You cannot be permitted to return with knowledge of our presence." The alien vessel released a pulse of energy that washed over the Pathfinder like a tsunami. Ship systems flickered and died, plunging the bridge into darkness before emergency power engaged. Damage report, Elena called out. Main power offline. Chief Engineer Hiroshi Tanaka reported over the comm. Propulsion systems compromised. We're effectively dead in space, Captain. Elena's mind raced. Their weapons were useless against a vessel of this size and technology. Diplomacy had failed. What remained? The answer came from an unexpected source. Aisha looked up from her partially functioning console, eyes wide with realization. Captain, they're scanning our biology now. I think they're afraid of us. Elena turned to her. Explain. The energy patterns. They're focusing on our neural pathways, our genetic structure. Something about us frightens them. Elena considered this as the alien vessel moved closer, its impossible geometry filling the view screen. What about humans could frighten a species with such advanced technology? Aisha, what specifically are they focusing on in their scans? The science officer worked furiously at her station. Our neural diversity, Captain. The variation in our brain patterns. And, she paused, double-checking her readings, our capacity for rapid adaptation. Something clicked in Elena's mind. The aliens had mentioned natural assimilation and called them individual minds. Could it be that these beings operated as a collective consciousness? If so, humans, with their stubbornly individual minds, might represent something they'd never encountered before. You will be neutralized, the alien voice proclaimed in their thoughts. Your anomalous neural patterns cannot be permitted to spread. The alien vessel emitted another, stronger pulse. Emergency lights throughout the Pathfinder flickered, and several crew members cried out as the mental pressure intensified. Elena fought through the pain, forcing her thoughts into focus. We are not your enemy. Our neural patterns, our individuality, they're our strength, not a threat to you. Impossible. Individual minds bring chaos. Chaos brings destruction. No, Elena countered, an idea forming. Individual minds bring innovation. Diversity of thought creates new solutions. She turned to her crew. Everyone think. Think differently, uniquely. Let them feel the power of human diversity. Confused but trusting their captain, the crew complied. Each person focused on different thoughts, memories, ideas, a cacophony of mental activity that flooded through the alien connection. The effect was immediate. The alien presence in their minds recoiled, the mental voice fracturing into disjointed fragments. The massive vessel shuddered visibly, its bioluminescent patterns becoming erratic. Stop. Too much. Discord. Elena pressed the advantage. This is humanity. We don't assimilate. We cooperate. 50 individual minds working together by choice, not compulsion. The alien vessel backed away, its energy weapons powering down. The mental voice, when it returned, was weaker, more cautious. You are a contradiction. Many minds, yet one purpose. How is this possible without the harmony? It's called choice, Elena explained. Unity through diversity, not despite it. A long silence followed. The alien vessel's lights shifted to a softer blue, pulsing slowly as if in contemplation. You are called humans. Yes. You are unlike any species we have encountered. You should be primitive, chaotic, yet you have achieved technological advancement while maintaining neural individuality. Elena felt the tension begin to ease. Our individuality drives our advancement. Different perspectives lead to innovation. The alien presence seemed to consider this. We are the Sylvan. For eons, we have guarded this region against those who would bring destruction. We assumed all advanced species would follow the path to collective consciousness. There are many paths to advancement, Elena replied. Humanity chose a different one. We must reconsider. Your existence challenges fundamental assumptions. The Sylvan vessel retreated further, its impossible geometry seeming to fold in on itself. You will remain here while we consult the harmony. Do not attempt to leave this location. With that, the mental connection severed. The alien vessel's outline blurred, twisted, and disappeared through the same tear in space from which it had emerged. As the bridge crew recovered, Alina sank into her command chair, the encounter's weight settling on her shoulders. They had survived first contact, but only barely, and they were still stranded in the void, systems damaged and far from home. "Damage control teams to all sections," she ordered. "Hiroshi, I need propulsion restored as soon as possible." "Yes, Captain," came the engineer's voice. "But there's something else you should know. The alien energy pulse. It didn't just disable our systems. It changed them somehow. Some components are evolving." Elena exchanged glances with Aisha. "Evolving how?" "I don't know yet, but whatever they did to us, Captain, I don't think our ship will ever be the same again." Elena turned to the viewport, staring into the darkness where the Sylvan vessel had disappeared. First contact had revealed something profound, not just about this alien species, but about humanity itself. Their greatest strength, the very thing that might save them in this hostile region, was the one thing the Sylvan feared most: the unpredictable power of the individual human mind. And somewhere out there, the Sylvan were deliberating their fate. The breaking of ancient chains. 12 hours had passed since the Sylvan departed, leaving the Pathfinder adrift in the strange physics of the void. Throughout the ship, repair crews worked tirelessly, but with limited success. Systems that should have been easily fixed remained stubbornly offline, while others had begun functioning in ways the engineering team couldn't explain. Captain Alina Reyes stood in engineering, watching as Chief Engineer Hiroshi Tanaka examined a section of circuitry that glowed with an unnatural blue light. "It's like nothing I've ever seen," Hiroshi said, his normally calm voice tinged with wonder. "The pulse from the Sylvan vessel has altered the quantum structure of our systems. The circuits aren't just conducting energy anymore. They're processing it." Elena studied the glowing components. "Is it dangerous?" "I don't think so." "In fact," Hiroshi hesitated, as if afraid to voice his conclusion. "Captain, I believe our systems are adapting to function in the void. The propulsion drive that wouldn't restart. It's reconfiguring itself to work with the variable physical constants of this region." "That's impossible," Elena stated, though after their encounter with the Sylvan, the word impossible had lost much of its meaning. Hiroshi shrugged. 3 hours ago, I would have agreed with you. But look. He pointed to a diagnostic display showing the ship's power distribution network. Patterns of energy flowed through it in ways that defied standard engineering principles. "The ship is healing itself, Captain. More than that, it's evolving." Before Elena could respond, Lieutenant Chen's voice came over the comm. "Captain, sensors are detecting another spatial distortion. The Sylvan are returning. On my way." Elena gave Hiroshi's shoulder a brief squeeze. "Keep monitoring these changes. If the ship is adapting, let's not interfere." When Elena reached the bridge, the view screen already showed the familiar ripple forming in space. This time, however, something was different. The tear opened more slowly, revealing not one but 3 Sylvan vessels. The original ship was flanked by 2 smaller craft of similar impossible geometry. "Red alert?" Andre asked from Tactical. Elena considered, then shook her head. "No, they could have destroyed us earlier if that was their intention. Let's hear what they have to say." The mental connection established immediately, but this time without the painful intrusion they'd experienced before. The Sylvan's thoughts flowed more gently into their minds. "We have consulted the harmony. Your presence creates discord, but also possibility." Elena stepped forward. "We appreciate your return. Our ship has been damaged. We need assistance to return to our space." A pause, filled with the sense of many minds conferring. "Your vessel is changing. You have not done this." "No," Elena replied truthfully. "Your energy pulse affected our systems in ways we don't understand." "Interesting. Your technology adapts, just as your minds do. This confirms our analysis." The main Sylvan vessel moved closer, scanning the Pathfinder more thoroughly. We will assist you, but first, there is knowledge that must be shared. The reason for our guardianship of this region. The mental connection deepened, and suddenly the bridge crew found themselves experiencing something beyond words. A direct sensory memory from the Sylvan collective. They saw a time long past, when the Sylvan were different beings. They existed as individuals then, scattered across many worlds, their technology primitive compared to their current state. Then came the collectors, massive entities that fed not on matter but on consciousness itself. The collectors swept through Sylvan space, harvesting minds and leaving empty husks behind. In desperation, the remaining Sylvan retreated to this region, where unusual spatial properties offered some protection. Here, they evolved, abandoning individual consciousness for a collective mind, the harmony. This transformation allowed them to resist the collectors' feeding and eventually develop defenses against them. For millennia, the Sylvan had maintained their vigil, preventing other species from entering the void, fearing both for these species' safety and that they might inadvertently leave the collectors to the Sylvan sanctuary. The memory sharing ended, leaving the human crew disoriented but understanding. "You feared we would attract these collectors," Alina said, the pieces falling into place. "Yes, all species we have encountered would be vulnerable to the collectors' feeding. Their minds would be consumed, just as ours once were. But you discovered something different about us. Your neural patterns, they are resistant. The very individuality that we feared might make you immune to the collectors' methods of feeding. They cannot synchronize with minds that refuse standard patterns." Alina exchanged glances with Aisha, who nodded in confirmation. "You're saying our unpredictability is a defense. More than that, it may be a weapon. The collectors have not been seen for centuries, but they are returning. Our deep space sensors have detected their approach. This is why your arrival is both troubling and potentially fortunate." The implications were staggering. Alina took a moment to process this information. "You're suggesting an alliance, a temporary cooperation. Your vessel's adaptations indicate compatibility with our technology. We can repair your systems, enhance them. In return, you will help us confront the collectors." Security Chief Andrei stepped forward. "Captain, this could be a trap. They immobilized us once before." Alina considered his warning. The Sylvan were clearly advanced beyond human technology, and their story about the collectors could be fabricated. Yet her instincts told her otherwise. The fear she'd sensed in their initial contact had been genuine. What exactly would this cooperation entail? She asked the Sylvan. "We would integrate selected Sylvan technology with your vessel. Your crew would remain as they are, individual minds. This combination of your neural resistance and our advanced systems might create a defense the collectors cannot overcome. And afterward, if we succeed, you would be free to return to your space with knowledge that might help your species prepare. The collectors will eventually find all advanced civilizations. Today the void, tomorrow your worlds." Alina took a deep breath. This went far beyond her original mission parameters. She was supposed to explore the void, not engage in an interspecies alliance against an ancient threat. Yet the decision seemed clear. "We accept your proposal," she said, "but I want full transparency about any modifications to our ship or systems." "Agreed. We will begin immediately." The collectors approached rapidly. Over the next 48 hours, the Pathfinder underwent a transformation. Sylvan engineers, or what passed for engineers in their collective, worked alongside the human crew, integrating crystalline components into the ship's systems. The modifications expanded upon the adaptations already taking place, enhancing rather than replacing human technology. Alina watched the process with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The Sylvan worked with incredible efficiency, their collective mind allowing them to coordinate complex tasks without verbal communication. Yet they seemed equally fascinated by the humans' approach to problem-solving, the creative disagreements, the improvisational solutions. As the work neared completion, Alina met with her senior officers in the conference room. Status reports, she requested, looking around the table. Hiroshi spoke first. The propulsion system is unlike anything I've ever seen, Captain. It's still our engine core, but the Sylvan enhancements allow it to function in regions of space where our physics doesn't apply consistently. Theoretical speed has increased by 300%. Weapons. Elena turned to Andre. The security chief looked both troubled and impressed. Our standard armaments have been augmented. The phase cannons now operate on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. According to the Sylvan, this is necessary to affect the collectors. Aisha completed the report. The most significant change is to our shield system. It now includes what the Sylvan call a consciousness barrier, a field that disrupts the collector's feeding mechanism. Elena nodded, taking in the information. And the Sylvan themselves. What have you observed about them? They're afraid, Aisha said simply. For all their advancement, the memory of what the collectors did to their ancestors runs deep in their collective consciousness. It's why they evolved as they did. Abandoned individuality for the protection of the group. A path humanity would never take, Elena mused. No, Aisha agreed. And that's precisely why they need us. Their collective mind gives them incredible capabilities, but also predictability. The very thing the collectors exploit. Their discussion was interrupted as alert sirens blared throughout the ship. Elena tapped her comm badge. Bridge, report. Lieutenant Chen's voice was tense. Captain, the Sylvan are detecting a massive distortion approaching. They say it's the collectors. On our way. When Elena and her officers reached the bridge, the view screen showed the Sylvan vessels moving into defensive positions. Between them, space itself seemed to darken, as if light were being absorbed by something massive yet invisible. They come, the Sylvan voice echoed in their minds. Prepare yourselves. The darkness expanded, twisted, and then split open. Not a tear like the Sylvan created, but a wound in reality itself. Through this wound emerged something that defied human comprehension. The collector was less a vessel than an entity, a writhing mass of darkness punctuated by pulsing nodes of brilliant white light. It had no discernible shape, its edges constantly shifting. Tendrils of void stuff extending and retracting as it moved. The scale was impossible to judge, but it dwarfed even the largest Sylvan ship. Do not look directly at the central mass, the Sylvan warned. It can establish feeding connections through sustained visual contact. Elena relayed the warning to her crew, then addressed her tactical officer. Andre, target those light nodes. Full power to the enhanced phase cannons. Targeting, Andre confirmed. Firing. The Pathfinder's weapons launched energy beams that shimmered with unusual harmonics, striking one of the collector's light nodes. The node flickered but didn't extinguish. Insufficient, the Sylvan communicated. A coordinated attack is required. The three Sylvan vessels moved in concert, releasing streams of energy that intersected with the Pathfinder's continued barrage. The combined assault caused the targeted node to dim and finally go dark. The collector responded immediately. Tendrils of darkness shot toward the Sylvan ships, wrapping around their hulls. Where the tendrils touched, the impossible geometry of the Sylvan vessels began to simplify, becoming more conventional, as if the very complexity that defined them was being drained away. It feeds on our distinctiveness, the Sylvan explained, their mental voice weakening. Our uniqueness among species is being consumed. Elena watched in horror as the Sylvan ships began to lose their multi-dimensional properties, becoming more solid, more normal. The collector was stripping away what made the Sylvan special. Target those tendrils, Elena ordered. Cut them off. The Pathfinder's weapons sliced through the darkness, temporarily severing the connections. The Sylvan ships retreated, but Elena could sense their collective confusion and fear. Our weapons are less effective as we simplify. We cannot maintain our defense. Elena's mind raced. If the collector fed on the Sylvan's distinctiveness, their unique multi-dimensional nature, it feeds on what makes you special, she said aloud. What if we give it something different to consume? She turned to her communications officer. Maya, broadcast our ship's database. All of it. Every piece of human culture, history, science. Flood this region with human thought patterns. Maya hesitated only briefly before complying. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain. The effect was immediate and startling. The collector's tendrils withdrew from the Sylvan ships, waving erratically as if scenting something new. Then, with frightening speed, the tendrils shot toward the Pathfinder. Consciousness barriers at maximum. Elena ordered as the darkness surrounded their ship. The tendrils pressed against the enhanced shields, seeking entry. On the bridge, crew members gasped as they felt mental pressure. The collector attempting to establish feeding connections. But something unexpected happened. Where the tendrils touched the shields, they began to fragment, breaking into smaller strands that writhed with increasing agitation. Extraordinary, the Sylvan voice observed. The collector cannot establish stable feeding patterns with your consciousness structure. Elena gripped the arms of her command chair as the mental pressure intensified. It's trying to adapt, she gritted through clenched teeth. I can feel it searching for patterns in our thoughts. Aisha, monitoring the shield systems, looked up with sudden realization. Captain, we need to increase the unpredictability. If human neural diversity confuses it, let's amplify that effect. Understanding immediately, Elena addressed the crew. Everyone, think. Not in coordination, but individually. Arts, sciences, emotions, memories, whatever is most uniquely yours. The bridge crew complied, each person focusing on different thoughts, creating a cacophony of mental activity. Around the ship, other crew members did the same, having received the order through the comm system. The effect on the collector was dramatic. Its tendrils spasmed, recoiling from the Pathfinder's shields. The massive entity seemed to contract, its pulsing light nodes flickering erratically. It's working, Andre reported, his voice tight with concentration. The collector can't process our mental patterns. Elena saw their opportunity. All weapons, target the central mass. Fire everything we have. The Pathfinder's enhanced weapons unleashed their full power, joined immediately by beams from the recovering Sylvan vessels. The combined assault struck the collector's now vulnerable core, piercing the darkness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the collector's light nodes began to pulse frantically, out of sync with each other. The darkness between them thinned, stretched, and finally tore apart. With a silent explosion that nonetheless resonated in their minds, the collector disintegrated, fragments of darkness dissipating into the void like smoke in a strong wind. Silence fell over the bridge. Elena released her grip on her chair, realizing her knuckles had turned white from the tension. You have done what we thought impossible, the Sylvan voice returned, stronger now. For millennia, we believed surrender of individuality was the only defense against the collectors. You have shown us another way. Not surrender, but celebration of our differences, Elena replied, looking around at her exhausted but triumphant crew. That's the human way. We must reconsider many assumptions. This encounter has changed the Harmony's understanding of consciousness itself. The Sylvan vessels approached the Pathfinder, their impossible geometry fully restored, pulsing with brilliant colors that somehow conveyed gratitude and respect. Your vessel has been fully repaired and enhanced. You may return to your space when you wish. The passage has been mapped in your navigation systems. Elena considered for a moment. The collectors. Were there more of them? Yes, many more. But the knowledge gained today will help us prepare. And perhaps our species have more to learn from each other. I believe we do, Elena agreed. This shouldn't be our only meeting. There's an entire universe of possibilities between total collectivism and fierce individuality. A middle path, the Sylvan mused. We had not considered this before. Individual components creating strength through diversity rather than uniformity. It will be explored. 2 days later, the Pathfinder prepared to depart the void. The ship had been fully restored, with numerous Sylvan enhancements that the engineering team was still struggling to understand. More importantly, they carried with them knowledge that would change humanity's understanding of consciousness, technology, and their place in the universe. Elena stood on the bridge as Lieutenant Chen initiated the departure sequence. Course laid in, Captain. The Sylvan navigational data shows us the safest path back to charted space. Proceed, Lieutenant. Elena settled into her command chair. Let's go home. As the Pathfinder moved away from the Sylvan vessels, Elena felt the mental connection fade, but not before one final message reached them. You came to the void seeking knowledge, humans. You leave having given knowledge in return. The darkness between stars will remember your kind. Where the map goes dark, humanity begins, and fear follows, but not the fear we expected. Instead, it is the fear you instill in those who would consume diversity rather than celebrate it. Return to your worlds. Prepare them. We will meet again. The Pathfinder engaged its enhanced engines, accelerating smoothly toward the boundary of the void. Behind them, the Sylvan vessels shimmered and disappeared, returning to their vigilant patrol of the region they had guarded for millennia. Elena gazed at the view screen, watching as the darkness of the void gradually gave way to the familiar patterns of charted stars. They had ventured into the unknown and emerged changed, as all true explorers must. Captain, Aisha approached, tablet in hand. I've been analyzing the Sylvan technology. Their collective consciousness isn't so different from our neural networks, just evolved to a level we haven't reached yet. Elena nodded. Two paths to the same destination. They surrendered individuality to survive. We embraced it. And in doing so, we found a strength they never imagined. Aisha concluded. That's humanity's greatest asset, Elena said, looking around at her crew. Not our technology or our determination, though those matter. It's our diversity, our stubborn insistence on remaining individuals even as we work together. Where others see chaos, we find creativity. As the last traces of the void receded behind them, Elena couldn't help but smile. Humanity had taken its first steps into a much larger universe, one filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But they had proven something essential, that the human approach to existence, celebrating individual consciousness within collective cooperation, wasn't just viable. It was powerful. The stars beckoned, clearer now than before, and humanity, having faced the darkness where the map went blank, was ready to answer the call, one unique mind at a time.